Hello everyone, welcome back to Boricua Reviews. Today we are doing couple edition number 2 on the book Unwind by Neil Shusterman. I can never say his name right.
Neil Shusterman? She said
Shusterman.
it right.
Okay.
She said it right.
He's always getting mad at me saying I say it wrong.
No, I don't.
But anyway, yes he does. Anyway, we are going to do the non-spoiler first, and then once we get done with that, we are going to be getting into the spoilers. So, I'll let him start what the book is about.
We read this book about 3 months ago, so it's not the freshest thing in our minds. But what I can remember, this book is not a dystopian type book, but it takes place in a future where the United States went to civil war over abortion. You had the pro-life side and you had the pro-choice side, and they drafted a law to where
you're not
allowed to have an abortion, and there's a process called unwinding that can be done between the ages of 11 and 17. And that process basically is, if your parents don't want you no more, or if you're not a productive member of society, you can be unwound. You can have your body torn apart into pieces, and your parts can be used to help other people who need your body part, to live, who are more productive than you. So that's what unwinding is. And this book follows three main teenagers.
They're all going to get unwound for different reasons.
Yeah, they're all scheduled to be unwound. And the first one, the main character, is Connor, and he's scheduled to be unwound because his parents view him as being a bad boy, and he doesn't like to listen that much. He doesn't do well in school, and so that's why he's scheduled to be unwound. Then the next one is the girl Risa. She's a ward of the state. She plays an instrument, and in order to be a productive member of society, she has to do well in this test, or she's scheduled to be unwound. Well, she doesn't do well in her test. She messed up at the beginning, and she's scheduled to be unwound. The state can't afford to. Well, they can afford to. They just don't want her no more. They say they can't afford to, keep her in the house. Or
the last kid is Lev. He is 11 years old, I believe. He is the youngest one out of their whole group. His parents give everything they have. They give 10% of everything they have to God. So they decided that their last kid, which is 10% of one of their kids, will be given to God. So he is a type, which is you're born just for that reason and that reason alone, to get unwound when you turn 11.
So those are the main characters basically, and it follows them throughout the book and their fight for survival. And that's it for the non-spoilery session. So we're just gonna get down into the spoilers. So if you haven't read it, I would recommend that you leave and come back after you read it. It's a pretty good book.
Disturbing, but if you like disturbing, then you'll like this book.
I'm assuming that if you read it, you're still here, and if you haven't, you're gone. So follows Connor at first, and he's a bad boy. He's a bad boy, and his parents can't put up with him anymore, so they schedule him to be unwound.
Decides to run away.
And decides to run away. He goes to get his girlfriend. Girlfriend don't want to go. He leaves. He gets with the trucker. He was hiding out in a truck, and the truck gets pulled over on the highway because the police know he's in there. He jumps out and runs across the highway.
He creates this big accident.
And creates a really bad accident.
And that's where it stops there.
And then it goes to Risa. And Risa is, like we said, she's a ward of the state, and it follows her, doing her testing for her instrument. She fails it. She's informed that she's going to be unwound. She gets put on a bus, and her bus is caught up in this accident on the highway that Connor created. So that's how those two run into each other, and then it goes to Lev. I love how Neil did this because he showed you each point of view, and then he brought them together all into one. And Lev was also on his way to be unwound. He was in his car after his little tithing unwinding party. He was in his car on his way to be unwound, and he got caught up into this crash, him and his parents and his pastor. And Connor takes Lev hostage to get away from the police.
But Lev kind of got on my nerves at first, too.
Why?
Because he actually wanted to get unwound. He wanted to get to the king.
Well, he was bred for that. That's what he was bred for. He was bred to be unwound.
He was getting on my nerves.
But it goes to, you know, they pick up this baby along the way, and
stupid.
and so they're trying to hide out. They got this really funny way of adoption in this society.
Yeah,
it's called storking. If me and her have a child and we don't want the child,
I can leave it at someone.
Go to our next door neighbor house and we put the baby down.
The baby belongs to you.
And knock on the door, or don't even knock on the door. We don't have to do anything. And the baby belongs to you when you open the door and you see it. You can't give the baby away.
Well,
now you can re-stork the baby. You can go run over to your neighbors and drop the baby off over there, and they have to take care of it. But it's funny. It's crazy how they do it.
Once the baby is at your doorstep and you open the door, it's your responsibility to take care of that child.
They almost get caught because Lev tries to turn them in, and they get separated from Lev, and now it's just Risa and Connor. They group up with these other 3 characters. With the main one, name is Roland. He's a bully.
He's
there's this graphics. Well, I thought it was going to be a graphic scene where he almost rapes Risa in a bathroom, and Connor intervenes and saves her, and they're put into boxes, into crates, put on an airplane, and this is Risa and Connor that we're following right now, not Lev, and they go to Arizona, into this graveyard of planes and junk.
This is where all the runaways.
All the runaways
get put there.
Are placed there. They're all under watch by this guy named the Admiral. He's actually an admiral, from my understanding. He was a former military dude.
Yes.
Who child got unwound. I couldn't remember why, but there's this legendary story of Humphrey Dumphrey, and we'll get to that later on because that's at the end of the book. But then it jumps back to Lev, and it follows Lev and his struggle to stay. You know, at this point, he don't want to be unwound now.
He changed his mind.
Yeah, he changed his mind, and he teams up with somebody called Sci-Fi. And Sci-Fi, funny enough, has a part of another child in him. He got a body part. I think it was a part of the mind that has memories and stuff like that. Now, when you unwound, you're not technically dead. That's why they say it's not abortion. That's why the pro-lifers are okay with it, because they say you live on in the other person.
They don't kill you.
Now, it sounds ridiculous, but it's actually true, because like if my arm was taken away and given to her, my arm can move. You know, I can move my arm, even though I'm not in control of her body, but I can move my arm. So it's like a part of me is in her, and that sounds wrong, but but that's how it is. Eventually, Lev meets back up with Risa and Connor at the graveyard, and at this point, he went through this whole little secret society type thing called the Clappers, and what they are, they're against unwinding, and they're against the government and all. You know, they're just pretty much the opposition.
But when you hear a clap, wasn't that the bomb thing?
And when they got explosive blood, and they call them clappers because when they clap their hands together, they explode. They're a bomb. They're a walking, talking bomb, human bomb. And Lev is a part of them now. He's inducted into their little group, and there's some killings that they do within Arizona, the graveyard. So the Clappers, the group, they cause a rebellion at the graveyard. The Admiral gets hurt like bad. I can't remember if he gets shot or something happens to him. And Connor, who has Roland locked away, he trapped him. He trapped him in an airplane cargo hold, and he goes save Risa, who's stuck with the Admiral inside of a burning plane. And all the runaways. And all the runaways outside are, you know, trying to run him out and kill him. And
at this point, they think the Admiral is like the real big time bad guy.
Connor saves them, and Roland, since he knows how to fly a helicopter, because he was trained previously by the Clappers leader in that area,
I can't remember his name.
they fly to the hospital, where they're captured. Basically, they're captured and sent to.
Roland gave him up, wasn't it?
Yeah, Roland gave him up.
Yeah.
They're captured, and Roland, dumbass, he gave him up, and he got taken to the damn same death camp as they did. So now they have the unwinding camp, and Roland. There's a graphic scene where Roland is unwound.
The chapter 61.
Yeah, I think it's 61. Yep.
I wanted to cry. Like, I hate Roland. I'm not even gonna lie. I hate Roland. But when you read this chapter, you actually experience the unwinding that they do, and it's
piece
so
by piece.
Messed up. And the nurse talks to him throughout this whole process until he can't talk anymore, and then he can't hear anymore, and then all he can do is see, and then that was it. I actually wanted to cry.
He couldn't see.
Basically,
they cut his feet off. He's talking. He can't feel nothing. Then they cut his legs off. He talking. He can't feel nothing. They cut his waist. They cut his chest. They start taking, organs. Cut his hands, his arms. Then they take out his eyeballs, and he can still hear, but obviously he can't see, and he can still think. And then his hearing leaves, and then he's trapped in his head, and he's talking to himself, and then it ends. He's no more. He's gone. He's unwound. And that was probably the most graphic part in the book, and the whole entire book. It definitely was the most graphic part in the entire book. Yeah, it was the
saddest part too, because you actually know what these kids experience.
I hate Roland. I hated him. Yeah. I mean, him and Connor was always going at it, and when they finally fought, Roland got the best of Connor, and he could have killed him. He could have killed him, but he didn't. He chose not to. So he kind of redeemed himself right before getting unwound. So they really tried to make you feel for him, and it worked. Neil made you feel for him, and it felt.
Forget that.
It kind of felt awkward to feel bad for him, but I did.
Him, but it was just the whole point of they should never have to go through that. Yeah, that was the sad part. Like, no.
But basically, it all ends when Lev, who got captured, he's also in the camp now, and 2 other clappers, and they plan to blow up the entire facility.
Lev didn't know that they was in there.
But Lev didn't know that Connor and Risa was in there, and when he found out that they was in there, he didn't want to really do it anymore, and
he chose to help.
He wanted to help them too. The other 2 clappers exploded, and Connor was in the building. He was about to be unwound.
He was hurt.
When it was,
He was hurt.
Yeah, Connor was in the building when the guy clapper, not Lev, the older one, exploded. He was hurt. Risa was on top of the building when that happened.
She was playing the music, yeah.
Lev, rescue. He helps them and saves some people instead of killing people in the exploding itself. Excuse me.
Yeah, he helped save them.
And then
Connor passes out.
He wakes up.
He's in the hospital.
He lost his arm. He had lost his arm. He had lost something else. I can't remember what it was. But Roland's arm is attached to Connor now. So
he wakes up with Roland's arm.
He wakes up with Roland's arm, and Risa, instead of being,
she lost her legs, wasn't it?
No, or she got paralyzed. So Risa, instead of choosing to have an unwound child parts, she
decided to stay the way she was.
She was paralyzed, and from the waist down, and she was in a wheelchair now. But she don't agree with unwinding, so she didn't want no parts of it. She just said she'd just remain, herself and remain paralyzed. And then it goes back to the graveyard. They're now in charge of the Connor and Risa are now in charge of the kids in the graveyard. He's the new admiral, and then it goes to the admiral house, and it shows
the story about the Humphrey
Dunphy.
Yeah, Humphrey Dunphy. Yeah, and they're having this party where all these people are coming over, and that one kid that gets on your nerves too.
Sci-fi.
No, it wasn't Sci-fi.
He didn't get on my nerve, but Sci-fi was there.
No, the nerdy kid. What's his name? Sci-fi.
Sci-fi.
Lev was with Sci-fi.
Sci-fi, yeah.
This kid was in the in with them, with Risa and Lev and Connor.
Oh yeah, not Sci-fi. Was Sci-fi there? No, Sci-fi wasn't there. That was somebody else.
But this kid was one of their friends too and got sent away. They didn't know where he went. But you see him again at the Admiral's house and with his wife, and there's so many other people there. You still kind of like don't know what's going on, but then you start catching on. And the little story that the Admiral had said about his son and Humphrey Dunphy, it's his son, and all these people are actually his son because they all have pieces of him, if that makes sense, if I'm saying that right. Am I saying that right? All these people made up his son. They all had parts of him in them, including, God, I can't remember this kid's name.
Including one of the kids that was at the graveyard that, you know, the Admiral took away and took back home because obviously he got a part of his son in him. So that pretty much sums up Unwind and our review of it. She gave it a 4-star on Goodreads.
Yeah.
I gave it a 4.5 stars on nothing because I'm not on Goodreads. But that's what I would have gave it if I was.
Well, we got Unholy downstairs that I believe I'm going to read on my next month's TBR.
If not, it'll be in July.
Yes.